Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Bod Not Bod again. I'm hoping you can immediately detect a more sprightly and bouncy voice. The reason for that primarily is that I'm on Lithium alone and not booze anymore. So no more going into hospitals and trying to throw piss into a sink. No more going into shops and demanding free stuff. I've been sober for a month and 2 days. Well, actually a month and 1 day. November the 6th for 8 in the morning, I was crawling around looking for more wine in the house, and I found, I don't know, like a centimetre or 2 centimetres in one bottle of many empty ones, and I had that. After that, I had no means to buy anymore, and fortunately I could not persuade anyone to get me some. So since then I have been sober and attending AA meetings, which are amazing. They're really, really good. If you are somebody out there who has similar tendencies to mine, I would really encourage it. Don't worry too much about the higher power stuff if you don't believe in God. There's different meetings, they take different approaches. Try and find the one for you. And now that there's loads on Zoom, it's really accessible, and I've met some great people and found out some remarkable things about alcoholics, basically, which is to say that we associate alcoholism with things like drunk driving, with physical violence sometimes, with self-neglect, the physical damage it does to your liver and brain and things like that. But what you don't hear about, or at least I hadn't, was things like people having certain tendencies even when they've been sober a long time. So little OCD things, not OCD to distressing levels where somebody is really unable to function, but little habits like tappings or my one, I won't go too far into this, but like there's a stand-up comedy program called Live at the Apollo, and I get involved in this process of counting the light bulbs in the letters. I somewhat hate telling people that because I think I'm gonna infect them with the same disease. But anyway, what was another one? Another is the feeling that your brain moves very quickly, like that I guess a lot of people might say ADHD. I don't know whether it's correct to connect those two things, but the feeling that when you're doing something, it's like you're racing to do it rather than resigning yourself to do it if it's a task that you're not much interested in, like a chore or a boring work task. Like, it seems like alcoholics have a tendency, like, alright, if I give you a boring filing job to do and you're an alcoholic, well, you tend to get it done really fast, actually. And without wishing to brag, like when I had office jobs, I was a heavy drinker, and my boss disliked my drinking intensely, but at the same time, when late work came in, he would always give it to me. And I asked him about this, and he said, well, if I know that if I give it to you, I know it'll get done, and I'm meant to be the dysfunctional one. And also, at one job I had, we had yearly performance reviews, and I did better than my peers, even though I was the only one drinking 6 measures of Bacardi every lunchtime. So a fast mind. What's one of the other things that came up? Rage. Like, it seems like alcoholics, even when they're sober, they have a tendency to I feel like there's an escalator, like, so sometimes it can arise from confusion, but certainly at least the bottom level or second level has to be frustration, and very shortly after you fly off the handle. And if we combine that with having a fast mind, that's not a good combination, is it? Because it means like you can go through those steps very quickly, and I noticed this in myself. I should say about my rages, by and large, I'm in a house by myself, so I am not tending to scream at people. I am not in a house with children, so I'm not shouting at another adult or indeed directly at children. You know, I get on my keyboard and hit it a bit harder than is materially good for it, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I'm doing all this without notes. Yeah, so what do I talk about next? I'm just going to launch into a rapid change. The other thing is I'm going to smoke and drink coffee throughout. So you'll hear puffings and sippings. I know that's annoying, but I'm not going to edit this for like... I only get 25 viewers. It's not like I'm going to make any money, so if I can just do this and enjoy it, then that's the way it is. Oh, alright, well, I suppose this is a good time to talk about lithium. We all know, don't we, that there's drugs that you get from dealers, or your friends give them to you at a party, or you buy them in a club, things like that. We're talking about illegal drugs. Whereas on the other hand, you have drugs that doctors give you on prescription, and obviously they are legal. My experience on lithium is, imagine one of you came up to me, or a mysterious shadowy figure did, and said, here's a pill, take it and tell me whether that's a legal drug or an illegal drug. And I would take it, because I'm sometimes an adventurous sort. Now it probably wouldn't work quite like this. I might have to take several over a period of a week or a fortnight or something, rather than just one. But anyway, I would come back and I'd say, I reckon that's an illegal drug. And why would I say that? Well, it's the sense of elevation, the sense of better functioning than I'm used to by far. Thoughts are quick, but they're clear. I feel like, for example, there's been times when I've been in a phone conversation lately, and I'm able to come up with a metaphor for something that's said. I wish I could remember an example so that I could, you know, give you a direct example. But on other antidepressants that I've been on, I wouldn't do that, because other antidepressants slow me down and make me tired and exhausted. So whereas other antidepressants are like, I don't know, taking a sleeping tablet or a muscle relaxant, lithium is like 8 cups of coffee, or an amphetamine, speed, something like that. Speed, I believe, was a popular drug for the punks of the mid-1970s. I think I'm right in saying they were fueled by it, and look at them, like, their songs are angry songs, aren't they, and quite political, well, very political. And lithium seems to have given me like stronger political feelings, so I wonder to what extent, you know, the feeling of being on an amphetamine makes you focus on essentially social injustice. I don't know, I wonder if anyone's ever researched that. There might be a PDF on it for all I know. There might be whole conferences on it for all I know, where people talk about nothing else. Anyway, I've got to light this cigarette. So I have just under 2 weeks of lithium left, but they're not going to give me any more. Now, it turns out that in this country, the UK, or, well, I suppose I have to say England, because laws vary for the other nations of the UK, there's no license to put somebody on lithium alone. But there is a license if you put somebody on lithium combined with an antidepressant. So for a while, oh damn, I've got to stop the doctor's here. Right, let me pause. Okay, where was I? I think I was saying that they're taking me off lithium. They're gonna try me on fluoxetine, which is an SSRI, and on that alone. But given that there is a license to be on an antidepressant and lithium at the same time, I said, well, can't you start me on the combination of the two? Because I want to be on lithium, because I feel like much better on this. And how can I say so? Well, the first thing is, I've lived like a hermit for a very long time. With lithium, I want to be around people now. We are in the midst of COVID, so being around people now is like wanting to be around a sewer, because everyone's a potential disease risk, aren't they? So you don't want to be around people now, and I can accept not being around people. But in time, if this ever goes away, and we don't know if it is going to, do we? But if this ever goes away, I would like to volunteer and work in the field of mental health. But when I say that, like, it might be a small local place that's doing something in the mental health field, and I might volunteer just to tidy up, because they will have trained people with their assigned roles and tasks to do. And if I'm just like tidying away coffee cups, washing them up, straightening furniture, then the people that are trained, because, you know, a small little charity or outfit, they're always going to be underfunded generally, aren't they? If I could just go there and give my time to do these small tasks, meaning somebody who's capable of something a bit better can spend more time doing what he's good at, or he or she, then that's alright, isn't it? It's not costing them anything, because I'm not charging them anything. And you might say, well, hang on, some of you might be gracious enough to say, well, hang on, Graham, like, surely you could do something a bit more productive than that. Like, you know how to use computers. We can tell that because you've put a video up on YouTube. Like, my problem there, alright, let's say they spend a week training me, and then I go in the next week on Monday and Tuesday, and then by Wednesday I'm ill. That means they've spent a whole week training me, and I've worked for 2 days. So rather than helping them, I've effed them over, haven't I? Because I've absorbed their time from what they need to get done, and now I'm ill, and so I'm no good to them, and so they've wasted their time. So that's what I'm worried about. Whereas if I go up and just can get started on simple shit straight away and help them out, and then the next week I go, oh, I'm actually ill, it's like, all right, well, we're glad you came up and helped out for a week. You know, it's good to come back when you can. Like, you know, say in the comments if you find a flaw in my plan. You know, maybe I am being deluded in some manner. But so if you see a flaw in that idea, then by all means post. What else? Yeah, I've arrived at despite thinking myself good at English and being told that I'm good at it, I still struggle, this is terrible really, with the difference between metaphor and analogy. But so this is either a metaphor or an analogy. I don't really care what you call it. Here's my little comedy sketch, dark comedy sketch of what the Tory party does all the time that it's in power. So you may have seen in a movie a scene where there's a very, very long dining table. Let's say it's 50 feet long, and it's quite thin, you know, long and thin. There is a couple of films where you see something like this, where right at the end of one table, right at the end of the table, is one person sitting, and all the way at the other end there's another person sitting, and in the middle quite often you see a lonely looking candelabra equidistant between them. Now in this my scenario, one of the people at one far end is a beggar, like with tatty clothes, a bit of soot rubbed into his cheeks just for effect, unkempt hair, probably not well bathed, and he's sitting at the end of this table and he's drinking Heinz tomato soup straight from the tin, not even got a spoon. Meanwhile, at the other end of this very long table is another man, but he's wearing furs, he's got a Rolex watch, he's got a top hat and a monocle, and in front of him a huge plump goose, Brussels sprouts, roast potatoes piled up, carrots, peas, 3 bottles of wine, a really artisanal loaf of bread, and along comes a Tory government to survey the scene. And now I'm going to pause for a dramatic effect, because the front doorbell having gone, my cigarette went out. So the Tories survey this scene, and they know immediately what's wrong with this situation, and they have a plan to put it right. And that plan is what they must do, and devote their lives to doing this, let's face it. What they realise they must do, what their vocation must be, especially if they're Christian Tory MPs, what they must do is find some way to move the tin of soup that the beggar is nursing away from the beggar, and gradually, just over the course of decades maybe, make sure the soup goes more and more towards the oversized obese man who's got the goose, the roast goose. And the trick is to make sure you do it so that the beggar doesn't really understand what's going on. He's got some perception that the soup is going away, but maybe he's a bit sort of distracted by a quiz show, or I don't know, what else would he be distracted by? Might be distracted because he's mentally ill, or might be distracted because he hasn't been able to get his medications that day. There's more going on in his life than realising that the soup is being edged away from him towards the other end of the table. I'm inclined to leave it there. I probably won't improve on that really, and according to the screen I've done 18 minutes, and that seems like plenty for a video. But you may take from that sort of a sketch that I feel down. 2 people have used the word hope to me today, and I've responded the same to both of them. Like they said, well, I hope your new medication works. As I say, it's not one I've taken before. And I replied, hope, what did I say? I said, I don't find hope very useful. I said hope is a type of fog. What is it really? It's a kind of vaguely positive notion that things ahead of you might be better than they were in the past. But why would we have that now? Why? What indication do we have that things will be better? I can't really think of any. So I'm not really going to focus on hope. One thing that I am going to focus on is See, I was going to mention a company that's very capitalistic, but basically, you know, I have access to films online, and without identifying the site or precisely what I've done, paying for a service that costs me £5 a month, I have access to the sorts of films that real cineasts would go for. So I'm talking about like French art films, or Fritz Lang, or films about mental health that are quite complex, or just stone cold classics, or things with Orson Welles acting and directing, or one or the other, you know, that sort of stuff, rather than sit here watching, I don't know, whatever the television chooses to show me, or whatever Marvel thing happens to be most spoken about at the moment. So that's what I'm going to focus on, sort of feed myself that way. That's what I hope to do. And I don't feel depressed. I tell you that dark imagery, and I don't feel depressed, but that's because I'm on lithium. I've got about 2 weeks worth left, and then I'll have no more, and perhaps a month from now you will be hearing me again, and maybe I'll throw another jug of piss at the wall. But whereas last time I felt compelled to do it by circumstance, maybe I'll just go around like my local neighbourhood throwing piss everywhere. There was somebody dear to me showed me a documentary called Wisconsin Death Trip. I'll just cover this briefly. It covers the period 1890 to 1900 in Wisconsin in the United States, and there was this woman, and she was always getting put in prison cells. And what was her crime all the time? She would just go around smashing windows. It made me laugh. Like, as far as I'm aware, she never hurt another human being. I mean, obviously, if somebody smashed my window now, I'll be furious. Like, oh, you know, that's a absolute disaster for me. For whatever reason, and it's on me, isn't it, that I haven't researched her a bit more to ascertain what her reasons were. But she was just always being put in prison cells because she'd just lob things through windows, and I don't know, it amuses me. So, you know, maybe that'll be my role model when, having fought very hard to remain on lithium, even if it has to be in combination with an antidepressant, they've refused. They have refused. So in a month, if I'm in a state again, I fought for the treatment that I hoped would keep me buoyant as I am now. Anyway, right, I'll love you and leave you. Try and remain well, you know. It's bad times, isn't it, really? But do what you got to do. Alright, cheerio.